Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with my mom, Dr. Diabetic. We are doing a Q&A. I asked you guys to ask me some questions on Instagram, so we are here to answer them.
We are here.
Okay, introduce yourself.
Hi, Ellen Johnson. I'm a family doctor, currently working at an insurance company doing utilization management.
How long have you had type 1 diabetes?
Since 1972, so going into, I guess this is my 48th year.
Awesome. Okay, and disclosure, so sorry if you hear noise behind us. There are two wild cats that are just crazy. You might see them pop in the video, but you might not. We're not really sure, but they're crazy. Okay, and other question, what do you use to take care of your diabetes right now? That's a really weird question.
Currently using the Omnipod and a CGM Dexcom 6.
Yeah, Dexcom G6. There you go.
G6, sorry.
And if you don't know, I'm on insulin pens and also Dexcom G6. And you...
Oh, yes. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yes, I've been looping since May of last year. And it's really working well for me. My sugars are not perfect.
Who's Arno?
That's
Let's be real.
Pie in the sky dream.
Yeah.
Get it out of your head.
Jumping into the questions. And I'm adding this myself. And I can ask myself this as well, but we've been on a lot of different pumps, the two of us. What has been your favorite?
It's tough. They all have their pros and cons. I've basically been on either a tubed pump or the tubeless.
Ever since I was born, she's been on a pump.
I got my pump right. Sarah was about 4 months old when I first started on the pump, and you are...
I'm 25.
About 25 years that I've been on one pump or another, with and without a CGM. Love the integration of the pumps with the CGMs, and then the Riley Link just gives that extra little oomph when you need it if you're running high, or it'll slow down your insulin if you're going low. So you can be almost a little more daring with pushing the insulin.
This is why we call her Dr. Diabetic. She's daring with the insulin. All right.
I hate lows though, so really.
Well, speaking of lows, what is your favorite low snack?
My favorite low snack, something that works really quick for me, has always been juice. The other thing I use more now are the 15-gram gel packs. They tend to not cause me to rebound out of control, so you're not roller coaster riding all day.
Mm-hmm. I would say my favorite is candy.
Sarah's has always been some
my
form
one
of candy
excuse to eat
another.
Candy during the day, because I'm like, I need this candy right now. I can't even share it.
Is it Starbursts or
Gatorade Chews, or overnight though, I specifically like applesauce packets because they're really easy to like open and close, and you could eat like a half and then close one, where as a juice you have to like try and find the hole to stab. Ugh, sorry. There's a light behind here, and if it goes flying down, it's because a cat took it down.
It's a cat playing with the
Louis!
electric cord.
Hold on.
Do you want me to?
We'll bring him in.
Quite playful.
This is Louis.
Lulu?
He's playing with my cord. Sweetheart. Say hello. Hello.
He wants to be
Hello.
not in the shot.
No. Moving on. What was it like being diagnosed in the 70s?
Back in the 70s, there really wasn't much. We had plastic syringes, so no boiling of syringes. Few kinds of insulin, basically NPH or regular, and it was the old-fashioned regular. You would take your insulin.
This cat is distracting us right now.
You would take your insulin in the morning, your combination of NPH and regular, and then you hoped your lunch would coincide with the peak of the NPH. Often it did not, and you really couldn't do anything about it. At least I didn't do anything about it. Like, wasn't into multiple injections at that point. I think my pediatricians...
Did you have an endocrinologist as a kid?
No, just my general pediatrician. And his thought at that time, I remember he told my mom, was to try and let me live as normal a life as possible without letting the diabetes interfere. And at that point, there wasn't a whole lot you could do. There were no CGMs, there were no glucose monitors, no finger sticks. It was all urine testing.
That's wild. Yeah. I'm glad I was diagnosed when I was diagnosed.
It's almost hard to imagine Like, how could you possibly
This
control
light is literally gonna go down. I'm
your
telling you.
blood sugar?
Louis, hey, if
Bye.
you see a cat, just ignore him. Funniest type 1 memory. Here he comes.
I have some scary type 1 memories right now.
I have one funny type 1 memory. I used and still use diabetes to get out of stuff in high school. I never ran the mile because I was always low. So sad. Real life, I just did not want to run the mile. What's a scary memory for you?
Well, probably the scariest diabetes adventure was the time that Sarah and I went with her biology class in high school to Ecuador and the Galapagos Islands. I completely, for some reason, completely forgot I was wearing my pump, a tubed pump, not waterproof, and I just jumped into the water to go snorkeling with sea turtles,
Which was cool.
which was awesome. About 5 minutes into the snorkeling, I sort of realized in a panic that I still had my insulin pump on. I had not taken it off. I had not thought I needed to bring a backup pump,
Always pack extra supplies.
backup everything. So I wound up having to sort of comb this tiny little town on this tiny little island for insulin and supplies. I got the bare minimum to survive, and somehow we made it through the rest of the trip. My
Sorry,
blood
I'm
sugars,
laughing at the cat.
that's okay. We're not well controlled, needless to say, but I survived.
But we're here to tell the tale. And I was in literal adrenal crisis that whole time, so I couldn't even comprehend anything.
Yes, Sarah's adrenal insufficiency had not yet been diagnosed.
But was about to be.
That happened right after we got back
Yep.
from that trip. Yeah.
Wild.
So
Lowest and your highest blood sugar that you can recall.
lowest was, I believe, 27 or 29. Actually, when I was
Yikes.
pregnant with Sarah, and I was really pushing the limit, staying as low as I possibly could. Highest was
Maybe that's why I'm so smart.
immeasurable high.
I would say the same for me for being high. And the lowest I think I've ever been, my meter has read low before, so I think that's 30 or under. Or does your meter read to 20 in the 20s?
I remember seeing a 29 or 27.
With me? Or you?
No, with me.
Oh.
When I was
This
pregnant.
I
that
just
time.
recently had a LOW on my meter. Like it was a bad day. Definitely in the 30s, definitely in the 20s. I don't know if I've ever been in the teens. I've come very close to passing out from a low blood sugar. What
Not
age
fun.
were we both diagnosed? You were
I was 11. I was a couple of months away from my 12th birthday.
and I was 6. Best thing about having a mom with type 1. Best thing about having a mom with type 1 is being able to relate to the annoyances of type 1 diabetes. I think it's probably the best way to say that. It's really great to be able to call her up and be like, my blood sugar was high all day, or low, and this happened. And she's like, yeah, I have been there. She's obviously been through it way longer than I have. You have you have more than double the experience that I do. Because I'm just coming up on my 20th.
20, yeah.
You're 48. It's nice to be able to also bounce ideas back and forth off of each other. If you don't know, I don't know if you said this, but she's also a family dog. So sometimes I treat her as my endocrinologist, and I'll be like, hey, do you think I should back my long-acting insulin off a little bit? And she'll be like, you could do 2 units, and then if such and such happens, then bump it back up or whatever, which is nice. I definitely take advantage of that. And advantage of her being a doctor, because I am also a bit of a hypochondriac and call her anytime I think something's wrong. I thought I had a trigger finger recently. It was all in my head. Have we picked up any bad habits from one another?
I don't think so. I think we've shared with each other what works.
Yeah.
But
For a good example of sharing what works, when I wanted to switch to the Omnipod, because before I was on pens, I was on the Omnipod, little miss, lovely diabetic, got mad at me for switching and was like, blah, 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 don't bite the hand that feeds you, you have a perfectly working pump. And I was like, I just want to try it. Who 3 weeks later was on Omnipods? Raise your hand if that was you.
It was a good idea that I didn't recognize as a good idea at first.
And now, to be fair, you do love the Omnipod now.
I do.
So
I do.
can you just say, you were right?
You were right, Sarah. You were right.
This whole video just was perfect. It was worth it
It's
for
everything you've lived for. It's very interesting though, because as far as exercise goes, some tricks that work for me do not
We are
work
very different in that.
for
You're
you.
very insulin sensitive.
Yes.
I'm super insulin resistant. So I'll take like 7 units for a meal, and meanwhile 7 units would like knock her out.
I take like 2.5.
Yeah. For the same amount of carbs, whatever that would be.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's interesting.
Do I think it was easier growing up with a mom who also was type 1? Absolutely, yes. What did you think when I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes?
I wasn't completely surprised. I had always thought, since Sarah looked similar to me, we had a lot of the same features. People could always tell we were mother and daughter.
People used to say, "Oh my God, you look so much like your mom," and I'd be like, "I roll."
They would call you Mini Ellen.
They would. And then everyone would say, "Do you want to be a doctor when you're older?" And I'd be like, "No, absolutely not."
I sort of was expecting Sarah to be diagnosed at some point in her life with diabetes. When it happened, her symptom was just getting up at night to pee.
I have the least dramatic diagnosis story.
And so I think I was I had my, just was kind of waiting for any little hint that maybe, she was becoming diabetic. So when it actually happened, I think I was partly relieved because I had been sort of waiting for the other shoe to drop. And once it was there, it was almost, like I said, a relief, because now we could just deal with it. It wasn't sort of wondering, when will it happen?
Yeah.
Will it happen? It was like, okay, I know what this is. I know how to deal with it. We can do it.
Here's a question that I have that I just came up with spur of the moment. Was it hard sending me to like babysitters with type 1? Did you struggle with that? Or you and Dad? My dad is a part of the picture, let me just say.
We were very lucky that the school nurse was
P.S. Sorry if you hear that noise. There's a cat scratching in the background.
super involved. She knew what she was doing. She wanted my input on everything. We worked very closely together, and so your elementary school days, I always felt comfortable.
I loved my elementary school nurse. I still love her. We're friends on Facebook.
At that point, and unfortunately, the school nurses weren't always as familiar with diabetes or with the new, as the new technology came out, as pumps came out. And
I do also want to
don't know
say,
that I was ever really.
my best friend growing up, her mom was also a nurse, so we would go on like vacation to the beach, and I think you put a lot of, it was a relief that she was a nurse.
It was very comforting to know that I knew what to do. She would call me, or she just sort of picked up pretty quickly.
She's very
how to
even-tempered,
manage.
so
And
she doesn't freak out.
Yes, the other thing I think to remember was that CGMs were not available then. We had limited access within reason to what Sarah's blood sugar was doing. So it wasn't like now where you can micromanage diabetes
it, even when your kid's not with you.
Much more quickly, right? And you can you can monitor it from afar.
Favorite part of having a chronic illness? I know my favorite part, and that is using it as an excuse. I use it as an excuse way far more often than I should, but I mean, you're dealing with a chronic illness, no one can see it, so do you need a break every now and then from a meeting? Yes.
Yeah, so a positive side of living with a chronic illness is needing to be aware of my health sooner maybe than I would otherwise have.
Take better care of yourself.
Take better care.
I agree.
Trying to make sure I get some regular exercise.
It can help to realize what foods work with your body versus what foods don't. And it's so funny because we were just having a little argument earlier about whether sweet potatoes are easier on your blood sugar. They're not easier on hers, but they're very easy on mine. And she would think she's a little higher because we ate sweet potatoes yesterday. And I was like, no, they're low glycemic. She was like, well, they don't work for me.
Well, and part of the problem is when they're fried into delicious French fries.
Yum.
That added fat, for me, makes a big difference.
Any history of type 1 in our family?
No.
Just us.
None in anybody that has come after me. Nobody before me.
None of my cousins have type 1 on that side. Did having diabetes have any influence on you becoming a doctor?
No. I knew I wanted to be a doctor from about the age of 7. Not sure why, just absolutely had no bearing on it. And I did not go into, becoming a diabetic specialist or an endocrinologist.
And I've never felt the need to do that either.
No. The only thing that has been nice has been when dealing with patients that have type 1 or type 2, it's been nice to be able to relate to them and what they're going through and all the myriad things you have to learn and that you have to deal with. So that's been nice to be able to share just personal experiences.
How hard was being pregnant and being type 1?
Well, when I became pregnant, pumps were just sort of coming onto the horizon for more general use. And my doctor...
This was 1993.
93, correct.
I was born in 94, but...
So...
I came to be in 93.
My doctor did not want to put me on a pump for the first time, for pregnancy.
Were you on MDI before?
I was. And I did...
Pens or shots?
I never had used pens.
Really?
Always syringes.
You should use them.
At the time, I did see my endocrinologist before trying to get pregnant to make sure my sugars were as tightly controlled as they
Do you know what your A1C was?
I don't. It was probably in the low 7s. My A1C got much better while I was pregnant. Obviously, checked my blood sugar way more often. Counted carbs even more precisely than before. Wound up eating a lot of snacks to kind of keep myself just, in low normal range. That's when I lost my taste for graham crackers, which I ate almost every day of pregnancy.
Is that your low snack of, did you eat them when you were low?
No, those were not low snacks. They were just when I could see my blood sugar starting to drop a little bit, just to keep, how frequent eating will often do it. And one of the interesting things that my obstetrician at the time said, he didn't want me using juice for lows because he thought they would cause too much of a spike and then a quick drop. He had me using skim milk, which actually can work as a low
because it has protein in it.
Because it doesn't. Right, it has protein, it has carbs, it doesn't have a lot of fat, so it's fairly quickly absorbed. That's what I used while I was pregnant.
I learned a lot today in this video.
And then I never did it again after that.
And how soon after I was born did you get on a pump?
A couple months.
It's so funny. I never, I don't remember being diagnosed, but I know you say when I was diagnosed, you'd say okay, I'll do this with you. We'll do the same thing. I have no memory of that. I'm sure it made it easier though, for me.
You were a pretty easygoing child.
Still am.
Yes. And never really put up a fight with checking your blood sugar, giving you shots. When we finally decided to put you on the pump, even that wasn't. But it was always helpful that I could say, I do this too.
Yeah. Well, my last ending question to end this video is, what is your blood sugar right now? I am 200. Oh no, I'm 193 with a diagonal arrow down, but I've been 200 all afternoon.
I'm 229.
Oh, we were almost matching. Better. Oh, you know what? Someone asked, have we ever had a matching unicorn?
I don't think so.
Not a matching 100, but I look all the time at the Dexcom Share app to see if we're matching, and usually we're 100 points opposite. So either I'm 100 points higher or I'm 100 points lower, or vice versa. Maybe twice recently I've caught or we do have the same blood sugar. And I freak out and I call her. I'm like, oh my God, look at your phone. She's like, I'm in the middle of work right now. I'm like, just look at it. Thank you, Mom, for being in my video.
Anytime.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow us on Instagram. She doesn't post that much, but I do. So you can follow me.
I will answer your questions.
Yeah, if you want to ask more questions, we could totally do another Q&A again. And I think that's it. See you guys later. Bye.